Welcome back to Experience the Rush. I'm Wes Woodland, and I'm so excited today. Sierra Gold is coming to life. I have a very, very special guest today. His name is Mike Bowers, and I met him last weekend deep in the National Forest. Outside of Forest Hill, he's a gold miner. He's also the president of the Auburn Goldhounds. Is that correct, Mike?
That's correct. Yeah, I've been the president for 6 years now.
And he's a spectacular guy. He was just sharing a nugget that could fit in the palm of your hand, and it's very special. If you could explain it, it has a crystal in it, which is kind of rare.
The nugget is pretty special because it has a crystal embedded inside the gold. And for Mother Nature to do that, the crystal would have been shattered if man had tried to do the same thing. So Mother Nature in itself is unbelievable. I found it in an area we called the crumb patch because we were finding small nuggets. We were averaging about 3 pennyweight a day digging between a couple of guys. And I found it, and when I found it, I got such a large signal. We were using a metal detector. We were digging down to the clay. I jumped up in the air when I found it because I seen it in my hand. And my buddy said, what happened? Did you get stung by a scorpion? And I said, no, it's just I showed him the nugget. He couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. One of our buddies, he went back to the car to get some water. And the buddy that was with me, he goes, don't tell him about it. We'll split the nugget 50-50. And I couldn't do that. We ended up splitting it 3 ways. And I ended up giving each one of them an ounce of gold for their share of the nugget. And the nugget weighs almost 2 ounces. So it was a special day. We found some really nice gold that day.
You know, and when I was out there with you, I guess it was last weekend, and Celeste, and shout out to Celeste Sandbake and to Eric Elmore. Just an amazing community, these miners. You know, when we were out there, we had come up and you were working what you described as a 12 million year old
right.
ancient riverbed?
It's an ancient river channel that runs through the hills. And what people don't understand is the metal detectors are really great. I found nuggets as deep as 2 feet deep, depending on the size of the gold, but they're very limited as to how deep they go. So in order to get the gold, I'm chasing the bedrock, and I'm staying pretty within a few inches of the bedrock as I'm digging, and that's how I'm finding the gold now. And in the last 5 trips, I've gotten about, say almost an ounce of gold in the last 5 trips. So little pieces here and there, and I've gotten 2 nuggets that weigh almost 1/4 of an ounce each. So it's been pretty good chasing the bedrock.
You know, and what I want to know, Mike, is when did the gold bug hit you?
30 years ago, I was repairing metal detectors for everybody that used metal detectors, and this one guy kept coming by named Bob Fry, and he said, check out my metal detector for me. I check it out, and then he'd show me all these nuggets he found. And I was into coin hunting and parks and schools and beaches and all that, and I found thousands of silver coins and rings and all those. But then I started seeing this gold that he was finding, and I said, man, you're really doing good. I talked him into finally, after a few months of taking me out, and that was the worst mistake he ever made, because that got me started. I've been doing it now for 30 years, and I've hunted all up and down Northern California.
When I talked to you, you had mentioned that you still have 20 years working the section you're on. Is it a feeling when you find a space? Like, what tells you, that that's the spot?
One thing that's really exciting about it is we're not finding any junk that the miners left, which tells me that the area hasn't been worked by any miners. And that part in itself is exciting, because I know that the opportunities of there are finding really big gold. They found nuggets in that area of over 200 ounces. So the opportunity of finding something really big. We found nuggets in the last couple of years that over 2.5 ounces in that area digging. Wouldn't have been found with a metal detector because they were 3 to 5 feet deep.
And I was so impressed with you. I'm so glad you joined me today. If you could you talk a little bit about your Goldhounds as the president and what you guys do, and and how you help the community?
We meet every second Friday of the month at the Veterans Hall in Auburn. We have over 400 members. We have a group within our group that we call the Nuggets. They go to the schools. They do panning expositions for the kids. We put gold in their pans, in their dirt that they're panning, at no charge to them, just because we're creating new miners for the future, and that's part of our group.
Yeah, so if you're a teacher or principal or anything like that listening,
look us up on the internet. We're Goldhounds. We've got hundreds of members right now, and daily we're adding new members to our group.
It's nice to see this growing thing. I don't know, What do you think of the technology, these metal detectors? I mean, do they help?
Unbelievable. It used to be in the past, we used to use metal detectors and they were really noisy because of the ground conditions. Gold is found with iron, ore, and in the dirt the soil is really bright red most of the time, and metal detecting is very difficult when it comes to looking for gold. But in the past they built some new machines in Australia. It's called the Mine Lab, and it's a pulse machine. It actually shoots pulse and waves into the ground, and it doesn't see the mineralization, doesn't see the heavy iron in the ground, and the technology is really amazing.
I was blown away, and the fact that you're working a section of the river that you said, if I hear a beep, the only thing it can be is gold. When I was with you and you let Celeste dig this thing out, and you did all the hard work, but she got to close this thing out, and the piece of gold that we found was the shape of an L. And it was my first time to really see gold come from Mother Nature. I mean, nothing to describe. We went off and we did some crystal hunting, and we found a nice, and I know Celeste knows better, it wasn't a vlog, but it was a small pocket of 100 crystals or so, and it's amazing what nature can do, and it's amazing the history in these mountains. Doing research and working with a ton of miners here. Is there any history or stories that you find fascinating that you have a minute to share?
Well, just think that that nugget that we found just a couple of days ago was in the ground. It's been there 12 million years. This is an ancient river channel. There's no mining activity in the area. Celeste was the very first person to touch that nugget. It's never been touched by a human before, ever. It's been in the ground for 12 million years, and she was the first one to hold it in her hand. So that in itself is just really amazing.
We got to wrap it up here. I want to give a shout out to Renee for weaving me into this show. And I need your help. If you could find Sierra Gold Original Series online on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We want your feedback, your ideas, your stories. I'll be back in 2 weeks. So we're going to be doing this the first and third Saturdays at about 10:45. Give or take a few minutes. Back to a commercial break.
Piece of cake.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Beth.
That was awesome.